The next marketing method is news releases. And you know, news releases are actually, I think, quite underutilized because we feel that we are not a great writer, and so we don't want to take a stab at sending a press release out to the paper or the radio. But actually, you just have to have a great idea for a story that grabs the attention of the media. And so I think that to help the newspaper or radio to take notice, you want to look at these 5 different points when you're planning your news release. First is the newsworthy topic. You want to make sure that you send out news releases about the events or the achievements that are interesting. Not everything, not every week, but times so that they have access to some of the goings-on of your business that are noteworthy. The first 10 word rule, absolutely in the first sentence, you want to demonstrate that there's some newsworthiness to this article. You want the impact. Sometimes I just sit back and talk it through the first sentence before I commit it to paper, and talking it through will get you some really good keywords, those benefit words that we were talking about before. And when we talk, we use a lot of exciting words rather than actually when we write. Sometimes we are more technically inclined to write, but talking, we use a lot of enthusiasm. And so I would include some of those exciting words in the first 10 word rule of the first sentence, as well as in the first paragraph or 2 answering the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, why, and then sometimes even the how is important. How to get a hold of you. That's, I guess, the next thing, contact information. You want the media to be able to get a hold of you for an interview, specifically if you're sending it out to radio, and they will call. So I always include your name, your company name, your phone number, and keep your news release handy by the phone, because that radio person may call, and you want to not be tongue-tied when conversing with radio. They usually, when they call you, will say, is now a good time for an interview? And you don't really want to say, no, now is not a good time. You want to take them up on their offer. As well, including a photo is important if you're sending any news releases out to print-based media. Do their work for them. Take a picture of what's happening, include it, and you'd be surprised how much that actually will get picked up. All right, so with our branding for Community Futures, we have a branded... Yes, go ahead.
We have another question in Saskatoon.
Yes, go ahead.
I got a question for you. Does it cost money to call those news reporters when you have to do the press release? Like, what's the process? Like, let's say if I invented something new today, so how, like, I'm going to call those guys and ask them to come and visit me or, take my interview. Like, does it cost money, or, like, what's the sneakiest way to, work your way around to get all of them?
Well, you don't have to be sneaky. Actually, if you send a press release through to media, they have the option to pick up the story, and they also have the option not to pick it up. I guess that's the risk of news releases. If you have a great rapport with media and they know that you have, quality, newsworthy types of stories that go on at your company, they may pick it up more often if you include a photo, etc. And for a news release, there is no cost involved in them picking up that story and doing kind of an editorial or an article on you in the paper. Now, that's different from actually paid advertisements. Sometimes when you send a press release, they also say, hey, can I give you to our ad department who can work on an ad for you as well? And if you do have it in your budget that you're interested to work with them to develop an ad for the paper, that's great. They may be more apt to pick up your news release. That's what I found working with my regional media. If you couple your news release with an ad, they'll pick up your news release more often. But that's not always the way. I often have promoted a lot of events just with news releases and had the stories picked up without doing an ad. So there's kind of two different things happening, right? News release versus paid advertisement. If you want a reporter to come down to your event, that's, again, a little more of, I guess you're taking a risk if you just send a news release that they will or won't come. Depends on their day and their availability and their interest in what you're doing. But what I like to do with news releases is get a listing of all of the media contacts for my region, my target market that I've identified, and then send out these press releases via email as a PDF format, just a really easy kind of way of them accessing the attachment, and attach a photo, say I'm available for an interview, and see if they're going to run it. So you don't have to be sneaky about it, absolutely not. You just have to let them know that you're more than happy to work with them to develop an article. If you have money set aside for ads, that's a whole separate ballgame. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's how I do things.
I know in Saskatoon here, every Saturday in the business section, they pick up a new business. I've been in the Sun, the Star Phoenix, and it's all free. They come down, take a picture, do the interview. They just make a phone call on Facebook. They don't meet.
That's great.
It took me about a month to get into the Star Phoenix. Not bad.
So maybe even connecting each other with some of that information, those resources would be outstanding. You know, help you along your way and maybe getting shortlisted to some of those media outlets. Was there another comment?
Yeah, in Regina. What I have found is sometimes, although they may not be picked up and put into the leader post in print, but they are putting the information in blogs on their journal websites, which is really cool. So it is picked up and it can be Googled and searched. You're just not getting it in the print version. So it's not ideal, but at least it is picked up.
That's awesome. Thanks so much. That's a great point. You know, a lot of what we do is now going online, and it's important for us to always be aware that there is another whole kind of sphere that's not print, it's not radio, but it's online, and most of us look for our news online. So getting onto a blog is sometimes pays off just as much as being in print. We're just going to quickly go through newsletters. And the reason I wanted to include newsletters in this Marketing Made Easy is because if you get into the practice of writing a news release, you can use it double duty. If it doesn't get picked up by the paper or radio or on a blog or what have you, you can actually insert it into a newsletter that's information for your clients, right? So you plan out a newsletter, you decide how often are you going to publish these newsletters, once a month, once every 3 months. We produce ours quarterly. You gather the product or event information, the things that you thought were noteworthy. You can reuse your news releases. It's a remade and ready-made article that you already have with a picture, and it's a double duty type of system that you can use the news release for more than one use. A call to action, sometimes in newsletters that's missing, but I like to also say, hey, you're interested to track readership. You want to know who's actually reading this. A call to action might be something like a contest or a puzzle or a brain teaser where your clients are asked to contact the office for their answers for a small prize, right? Something that you can then track that call to action, see who's really actually even reading what you're spending time producing. And finally, as I said before, you know what? Gather your emails and also, I guess, print out paper copies for use in your waiting room or others' waiting rooms. Sending out through snail mail is also another way to use newsletters. Here's a real short example of ours. It's actually a four-page newsletter. Here's the front page. We usually have a table of contents on the front so people can see what's coming up on the inside. And then it spans 2 pages on the inside with pictures, logos, color, consistent branding with our coloring system, and with our logo as well.